All right, we are live, I think. Welcome, everyone, to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late here. Hope you're all having a great weekend here. Thanks so much for joining in here on Sunday night. So, like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who is a member here on the channel. They always get that priority answering. You can see they have the green usernames there. And if you'd also like that priority answering, there's always join buttons here in the description, as well as on various other places here on YouTube. But anyway, so I see we have Brian, Mike, Grand, Kyle, Danny, Cars, Rafi, Vishal, Wheatman, Raphael. Thanks so much for joining in, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. And Luke, thanks for being a member for 6 months now. He says, I'm so happy that the 2025 Frontier has wireless Android Auto. That was my one gripe with the 24 I test drove. They must have heard me. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that the timing worked out because, there's so many times, too, where people are shopping for cars and then they get something and they compromise maybe on something. And then, a couple of months later, what they wanted comes out. It's actually kind of funny. Jason of the Engineering Explained YouTube channel had been saying how he really wanted an all-wheel drive Maverick with the hybrid system, and Ford refused to make it for a couple of years here, and he just really wanted a Maverick, so he went and got one anyway. And then, a couple, I think it was actually like a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, he's now had his Maverick, and then Ford announces the hybrid all-wheel drive version. I feel bad for him. I don't know if he's going to swap to that other one or what, but it's just so I'm happy for you, Luke, that the timing has worked out in your favor. So you at least know about it beforehand, and you can wait on the 25 there if that's something that's worth waiting for you. But yeah, I think it's a nice update for the Frontier, and it's, I really commend them for sticking with the V6 as well and keeping that differentiator and, keeping things simple too, and not trying to go overboard with the updates so that, it can stay at a nice low price point, hopefully. And I don't know, as much as, Nissan's been on a rough road recently, in the past few years, I think, some of the decisions I've seen them make here in the past, year or so even, I'm optimistic that, they are honing in on the things that work for them and are trying to, kind of carve out a niche for themselves and get to a better place. I really want to see Nissan succeed, and hopefully these, alliances we're seeing with the other Japanese companies out there to, help them all transition over to EVs eventually and stuff. I hope that all that stuff kind of brings strength to Nissan, gives them some better products as well. And Mike says, do you think we'll see a sub $50,000 Charger EV once all the trims are rolled out? I think so. I think, the low hanging fruit here too. I mean, I guess it depends on what happens with the tax credits, but if the tax credits do remain, in the future, I think that, trying to hit, because I think I think it was actually B. Mitchell pointed out the reason why Charger doesn't qualify for the tax credits because it's too expensive for a sedan or a coupe. Yeah, I think you got to be under 60 grand. And so the fact that, you're starting above that in Charger, I think it's 55, since you're starting above those price points, it's not qualifying for that. But I think if you do a sub 50 grand one, and if there's some kind of, purchase tax credit kind of thing in play there on those, then I think, that makes it doubly enticing for them to offer something like that. And I mean, to me, it makes sense. It's a Charger. They should do a rear-wheel drive one at some point. Obviously, the rear-wheel drive version is going to have a little bit less of a cool factor because that's going to mean losing a front motor, and therefore it'll be slower, but it'll be more efficient as far as, range and all that. And again, gets you probably under that price tag there. And just again, for people who still buy Chargers in sunny states, like a lot of people have been buying them, in large numbers in those sunny states. I think it's the majority of buyers, honestly. People don't care about all-wheel drive in Texas and California and Florida and stuff. So, yeah, I think for the people that want a really cool-looking coupe, an electric coupe, or even gas with the inline six, I think both of those have a good chance of being under 50 for a base one eventually. And I see we got a spammer here, so go ahead and block him nice and early, and hopefully he won't make too many more accounts and fuss with us too much here. But I did change the commenting threshold, so now you have to be, a subscriber for over 24 hours for it to let you comment. So got some dedication there from Richard. So, but hopefully that weeds out some of the riffraff here. But let me see. Grant, thanks for joining in. Kyle and Danny, everyone saying hello here. Cars is excited. Happy to see you here, Cars. And Rafi as well. Vishal says, I saw a Geo Metro hatchback driving around this week. I had to do a double take when I saw it. That's awesome. I actually just this weekend, someone around here has a early 90s or maybe a late 80s Civic hatch, like bare bones one. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. I mean, it looks like it's a driver. It's not like it's some kind of restored thing, but like it's like in really good shape. And I mean, I haven't seen one of those in a long time. The funny thing is they even had on on the back window a Hawk 2 sticker. So that was extra little laugh. But I was just happy to see them drive. I think they're actually smoking in it too, which kind of adds to the cool factor. I don't, condone smoking, even though, anyway. But you're just seeing them like smoking a cigarette in this like was probably a collectible Civic at this point, just because it's still on the road and it's like not beat to hell and back. Just was kind of a cool sight. My interesting sighting, I just saw it tonight actually. I saw my first Mustang Dark Horse. I had not seen one outside of an auto show until tonight, and I thought I'd see one sooner. I mean, I've seen other 24 Mustangs, but I hadn't seen a Dark Horse. So that was cool. And actually it was a customized one because it had bronze wheels on it that I don't think are factory, but just was happy to see someone bought a Dark Horse. They don't seem too popular around here just yet. They're probably hard to get still, but just a nice little surprise. And let me see. Raphael says, good to be here. I missed the last 2 weeks traveling for work. Well, happy to have you back here. Hope the work travels were good and not too exhausting. Kyle says, someone near me has a Plymouth Prowler in black. Looks amazing. Nice. Yeah, those always, they look good in every color. I mean, like Yuri from Straight Pipes, his yellow one's amazing. Whenever I was a kid, someone that kind of was an acquaintance, I guess, had a purple one. And when they first got that, I was like, man, that is the coolest looking car. As like a 9-year-old, whenever that car came out or whatever, they always make a good impression. I'd love to try one of those out someday. It'd be fun. And Danny says, hey, Matt, sorry for missing last week, but here's something I want your thoughts on. My dream 3 Japanese cars, 1988 Mitsubishi Starion ESI R, 93 Honda Accord SE Coupe, and 1998 Subaru Legacy RS Type RA. All sweet cars. I mean, honestly, I don't think, I'm sure there are some if I really dug, but I feel like there's really almost everything from the 90s and even into some of the 80s as well. All the Japanese JDM stuff from that time period was like all awesome. Like there's not a single bad one really that, again, I can think of off the top of my head, at least as far as normal stuff. We're not talking K cars or anything, but as far as regular sized cars, I love all those. I mean, I'd love to someday do some type of JDM series of just like nonstop, for a month or two of just a bunch of Japanese classics. Would be amazing. I have a few that have been offered to me over the past few years, and it's just a matter of, making the trips and finding the time, again, being so slammed with all the new car stuff, but I'd love to try out some of the used stuff someday. And Good Stick says, I saw a Saab 97X driving back home on Friday. Nice. I haven't seen one of those in years. That's a good spot there. I'm hoping it was holding up okay. And I see we got more of the Richard Simmons. I'm not sure what the motivation is. Guess, and you just don't have anything better to do. Let me see. And apologies, everyone, for the spam there. And Dylan says, speaking of Maverick, that Lobo seems pretty cool. A power bump would be nice. Nothing crazy, though. Maybe 270, 290 horsepower range. Guess it could just be tuned. Yeah, I think that's what everyone's saying is just, you got to go to the aftermarket. But then that flushes your warranty down the toilet. I mean, maybe Ford has, their, what do they call them? Ford Performance tunes or something that you could maybe do. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I mean, Ford still makes some really dumb decisions, in my opinion, and that's one of them. It's like, we're talking about turbocharged vehicles here. We're not talking about having to, stroke out an engine to a bigger displacement or doing any kind of old school hot rodding here. You literally just do a little bit of typing into the computer and boom, you have more power. I get that the problem is warranty claims go up whenever you boost power on motors that typically, weren't originally designed for that much power. But, we're talking about, minor horsepower bumps. I mean, there's modded Focus STs running around with hundreds of thousands of miles on them. Still totally fine. So, I don't think that it's really that big of a deal even from a warranty standpoint as far as Ford's concerned and trying to cover their butts. But yeah, so just kind of strange for sure. Man, I don't know what is up with, I don't know if there's a way for you guys to maybe report some of the stuff too, if it does pop up, just in case I'm not, staying super up to date with all the, comments here. And maybe I need to have another mod here to just like preemptively block stuff quicker in the future or something. It's a shame that this is the stuff that I have to deal with. Yeah, I'm not sure why YouTube spam filter isn't like picking these things up a little bit quicker either. But anyway, I'll try and do my best. And I see Zachary says he's happy to mod. And let me see if this is something I can quickly do, because I'm not sure. Zachary is someone I have met, and I know that he actually is in the online world and deals with other trolls and the like. So let me see. I think it needs me to. I'm having this like emoji things popping up in my way here. So I don't know. Yeah, this is a dedication to the spam here. So let me let me see. All right. Zachary, you are now a moderator. Again, no obligation whatsoever, but if you see stuff sooner than I do, feel free to do whatever you feel like doing in your discretion. I give you power over the comment section. And thank you, Zachary, for volunteering. And Austin says maybe Richard Simmons is Doug DeMuro getting his revenge. Could be. And all right, well, thank you, Zachary. I really appreciate that. All right, so man, world's crazy, isn't it? People just gotta be annoying sometime. Let me see. So where was I? Good success. Saw a 1980s Toyota Corolla 2, a Tesla Model 3 pulled up next to it, and it looks massive. Both those cars are compact. Yeah, it's so. I mean, I see this all the time, and Beth and I comment on this frequently about, we're driving in just like Mazda CX-70, and we see a second-gen Ford Explorer that used to be such a big car, at least to us, growing up, and now they're, tiny. I'm like looking down at all these, vehicles, and it is really crazy how much cars have grown, and I'm kind of curious if we will see kind of a reversion back to smaller cars again, kind of like we saw in the 70s. Everything kind of ballooned in size, and then we kind of shrunk down, in the 80s. I'd be curious to see if we kind of follow the same cycle, or if the huge cars are here to stay. I mean, Ford, Jim Farley has said that he wants to have stuff go back to a smaller size because that's needed as far as EVs and making them affordable and stuff, but also just all the other downsides to massive vehicles, just things that he says we got to try and wean ourselves off of, and we will see. Again, customers will decide if that's something they're willing to do, but at least these days we don't have the compromises like we used to with it used to be you had to have a huge vehicle, that meant you had to have a gas guzzler. Now you can have a pretty big vehicle that's also pretty good on gas. So anyway, let me see. Mike says, do you honestly think we could see a competitive, not shitbox, pre-tax credit 30 grand EV, or by the time battery prices come down a lot, inflation will not allow that? I mean, I think that we could definitely see some nice stuff. I think, the thing is, I think one of the things that Tesla does really well is the Giga press, and that simplifies production so much. And I mean, that's why Toyota basically reverse engineered the Giga press for this upcoming Lexus in a few years, because they were so blown away when they disassembled one of the more recent Model Ys here built with the Giga press thing, like how efficient it is and the amount of parts that were reduced and all that. And so I think there's a lot of cost savings there. There's a lot of untapped potential with cost savings and all that. And so I think that, plus batteries, battery prices come down every year and continue to drop, and new chemistries and new advancements and all those things I think are going to really help. So but I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But and I think as far as inflation, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, inflation has slowed down, massively since the big jump in 2022 and 2023. So I don't expect, pricing from a numerical standpoint to get crazy to make it, unattainable for the 30 grand thing. I mean, that's Ford's gunning for a $25,000 one. So is Tesla. And that's, again, I'm pretty sure they're all talking pre-tax credit. But even if we are, because especially these, I don't know how many of these companies are banking on a tax credit, since those are kind of falling out of favor, not just in America, but elsewhere in the world. So, either way, I mean, I think, whether it's 30, I mean, even like I said previously, the Equinox EV, at current pricing, you can get those, I think, what it's at 37 now. And then with the tax credits that those are eligible for, you are already at under 30 grand. And I love the Equinox EV. The base one's got over 300 miles of range. You got those big screens as standard. It just doesn't have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's, I won't go down that tangent again. But, outside of that, it's a fantastic. And honestly, if it had, I like the Equinox so much, I will add that if it had CarPlay, it would be a serious contender to replace the Mach-E in a few years. I like it that much. So I think we're already kind of close to the idea of a really nicely done, good range, good charging, not a compliance box kind of thing, a genuinely good EV that already is essentially a $30,000 price tag. I also thought Bolt was pretty good. I mean, obviously it's not in production anymore, but Bolt was kind of already there as well. And I thought the Bolt was great. The Equinox is obviously even better, but compared to other vehicles for 30 grand, sure, Bolt made a few compromises. It wasn't as nice inside as a Civic for 30 grand or, any of the other compact sedans and things like that. But to me, it was still, it had Super Cruise. You could do hands-free driving in it. And it was, a nice little vehicle, I thought, So for someone looking for an economical commuter or something, I think even a Bolt, is a great grab. And especially these days, the used market's also making 30 grand new EVs a little bit less relevant because you can get like a lightly used Ioniq 5 for 30 grand now, or one of these bigger things. Mach-E's, like I said, our Mach-E trade-in value I think is like 24, I think maybe 28 on a good day from a generous dealer. So you could have our 11,000 mile Mach-E 2022 with heated seats, heated steering wheel, huge glass roof, all the luxuries and all that, for the most part, under 30 already. So I think the used market is really what's going to fill in EV adoption, I think, because they're just so insanely cheap. And also you have the used tax credit right now as well for those. That's making them even cheaper. And so I think, especially because of that tax credit, which may go away here, next year, I think that this is probably, it's so hard to predict. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'd say this is, a good time to probably pick up a used EV. Obviously let someone else take the depreciation hit. Buying them new, I think, is definitely a gamble. I'd say lease if you want to go new, but otherwise I think used are, great buys. And again, under 30, and still have lots of life left in them. And Cara said, I had a really close-up look at a Cybertruck last week when we were both at a stoplight. It was in the left turn lane that kind of dwarfed my Maverick. I bet. I had a Cybertruck actually today, three vehicles behind me, and thankfully it stayed far away, and I was able to lose it. But yeah, they're starting to pop up more and more. There's some a decent amount of them, surprisingly. Raphael says, well, I almost bought a Starion, got a RX-7 GTU instead. That was a good time for cars, man. Yeah, I'd say. But you got an RX-7. That's amazing. So that's great. You got to experience one of those. And let me see. Vishal says, you're forced to only have one car that'll do it all. What's your pick? We have to have some kind of like budget constraints here, because if we're going to just pick one car to do it all, and we're not talking a budget, I'd probably say, just because I didn't want to be like super, I don't know, flamboyant everywhere I went, I'd probably do like an RS6 Avant. Would probably be my go-to pick, just because you got the practicality of the wagon. You got the all-wheel drive, which I need, or would like to have occasionally around here in the winter. So I think if I had just one garage space, but potentially unlimited money, RS6 Avant would be the way I would go. And let me see. I see Richard Simmons is still up to his old tricks here. Apologies, Zachary. Hopefully this doesn't take the fun out of it for you. I don't think there's any other way I can do anything here to unless I just pause the chat, but I don't want to ruin the experience for everyone else and just go on random tangents. That wouldn't be any fun. I enjoy interacting with you guys. So hopefully we can, I don't know. Hopefully Richard Simmons gets a life someday. But in the meantime, I appreciate you, Zachary. I appreciate it a lot. And let me see here. Other questions. So Good Six says, my brother had a small accident with a Tesla Model Y. The bumper's red paint got scraped off, and the passenger rear and front door got a huge dent. It's probably going to cost a ton to repair. I think as far as So just the bumper and a few doors. I mean, yeah, it just comes down to what the damage is. If there's any sensors that got damaged, then absolutely it'd be expensive. But those hard parts shouldn't be terrible to replace. I think the thing that I was hearing about Teslas is that just getting the parts is hard, not so much that they're expensive. I mean, I guess you could say maybe there's like a aftermarket or some kind of black market that sells them for more or something. But I'm pretty sure it just would be a long waiting period for the repair, more so than the price. I could be wrong. I'm not in the auto repair world, but that's kind of what I heard in the past about those. Sorry to hear about his little accident, and hopefully he's all good, and hopefully it's not too inconvenient for him. Cara said, hopefully we don't have to do this, but I wonder if YouTube would allow you to set this to members only instead of subscribers only. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the next step. I just, sometimes if I do get caught up on member questions, I do like, trying to answer some member ones. But I mean, yeah, there's a potential to, lock this down more and just, only have members comment. And maybe even potentially make these members exclusive. I don't want to do all that stuff, put it behind a paywall, but and I don't want to have one person ruin the fun for the others that genuinely enjoy this. Again, I'm pretty sure unless YouTube didn't do the settings that I told them to do. I mean, it's supposed to be that you have to be subscribed for over 24 hours. This means that Richard Simmons has been subscribed with all these fake accounts or multiple accounts for over 24 hours. I feel like YouTube must have a limit for how many accounts, unless they're doing new emails and all kinds of other crazy stuff, in which case I feel like I need like a restraining order against Richard Simmons more so than just blocking him, because this is a whole crazy level of dedication to be putting this much work into just trying to spam a comment section that immediately gets deleted. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm open to whatever if it's going to be this big of a pain. But Austin says, "Hey Matt, the Fretsonic exhaust Dodge has developed sounds cool, but it's too easy to parody. People already calling it the Fartsonic." Yeah, lots and lots of comments about the Dodge Charger, and I feel bad. Even on their Instagram, the comment section is just like there's not a single positive comment that I saw, at least. I feel bad for Dodge. It's got to be a tough job over there right now. Danny says, "Hey Matt, here's a funny thing in my family. My parents have 2 GM cars, a 19 Traverse LT all-wheel drive and a 19 Chevy Bolt with the battery repaired, and grandparents have a 2009 Accord LXP and a 2001 Corolla." Nice. Yeah, I got some good little cars there. I'm curious to hear how they like the Bolt. Hopefully it's treating them well there after the warranty battery or whatever. It's good to see also the older Japanese stuff still on the road. Hopefully they're doing well and having lots of miles on them and serving well. So that's awesome. Linda, thanks for stopping by. And let me see. Old Cookie says, "Where I live in Norway, you can buy a Volvo EX30 today for 30 grand. It's not all-wheel drive, and the range is not super long at that price, but it's not a shit box." Yeah, I mean, that's another one. I think here in America, I thought they were going to start at 35, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's a little more. Maybe it will be a little more by the time they get here and next year at some point. But the EX30 is another one. I mean, they're definitely small. They're a little tight as far as space and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you're getting a Volvo, which at least over here is a premium brand. And so to me, that's I think there's some really solid stuff coming. It's, again, we're in the early days. We're in first gen as far as mass production, first gen for EVs. And I think there's a lot more to come when you look long term. If you focus on 2024 and 2024 issues, sure, there's plenty of hurdles and lots of stuff, that's not ideal. But I mean, it's like any other tech, it just takes time to improve. But Good Six says, there have been rumors that Tesla might stop selling cars once the robotaxi comes into full production. I don't think other manufacturers will be doing the same thing. Yeah, I don't think Tesla would walk away from their existing stuff either. But I mean, yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's the thing about rumors. Sometimes they're crazy. Sometimes they are crazy, but they're actually true. And sometimes that's just, good clickbait. So we'll have to see. But yeah, the robotaxi thing, I mean, again, I can't, with Tesla, with how they make decisions. I mean, I can't say that I can use logic here to predict anything, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, especially a robotaxi basket, which is very unproven, very challenging. And I don't care how much AI, hocus pocus you want to say it has to make them super good. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, but I really don't think it's going to be this life-changing, world-changing thing, in the next couple of years. Maybe eventually it gets there. Like I said, the problem is still liability. Who's getting sued whenever these things crash? Who's paying these bills? It's not going to be Tesla, and no one's going to want to pay for it themselves. So it's like, that's the biggest problem, I think. And I mean, even GM was just talking about, autonomous stuff and all this, and they're working on Super Cruise and all this, and various companies, there's Waymo and all these, and it's like, okay, what's the end game here? Because who's going to be liable? Who's going to take liability for all these things whenever accidents do happen? Because they will happen. They're not going to be 100% perfect. And so who's going to be caught holding the bag? That's, I think, the biggest problem. Even if you get beyond all the technical hurdles, it's just the legal stuff is the stuff that I'm curious to see. I mean, I'm not saying there's no solution, but someone's gonna have to be very brave to say, yep, I'm on the hook for this. So we'll see how that plays out. Also, is the fact that, I mean, when people are surveyed, I mean, and maybe again, if the robotaxis become this most amazing thing that blows everyone's minds, but I mean, currently, like, whenever like companies even ask buyers, like, do you want a self-driving car? There's a lot of people that say they don't trust it. They're terrified of them. I mean, there's plenty of horror movies where the car, locks you in and drives off, and it's just, it's like Christine. I think that's the movie. It's been a long time since I don't know if I even saw the whole thing, but there's those types of things that I think are still going to be mental hurdles as well. Again, even if everything is perfect legally, technically, and all that, it's. Yeah, I really feel like that stuff is so much further away than it may seem. At least whenever you hear certain people talk about it. And Kyle, thanks so much for gifting 5 memberships here, bringing some extra positivity back in here as we have more spam just popping right up here. So yeah, this is I don't know. YouTube's got to do something with user creation, because I mean, you guys see all the porn bots and stuff on the YouTube comments. They've actually, like, I haven't seen too many of them this past week or two. But yeah, it's like, what is YouTube doing, like, with their commenting? And just, I don't know. It seems like there's got to be, like, I don't know. I know TikTok, I think it's just for like influencers. You have to like have your license on record or something so that they can like verify you or something. I feel like verification needs to be a thing maybe on YouTube someday. I know that's like a privacy thing for some people, but like if we get rid of spam, by verifying people, it could be so much better, I think. But anyway, again, that's mostly a YouTuber problem, not a user problem. But that's it's just been so many things over the past few years with YouTube comments. But anyway, Rafi says, do these guys have nothing better to do? Yeah. I appreciate it, Rafi. It's yeah, I guess you think these days there's plenty of stuff to do, but apparently this is a good use of time. Everyone's different, I guess. Dylan says, is there a car you were extremely hyped for that met all expectations? For me, it was the ATS-V. I think the one reason it just pops straight into my head is the Ioniq 5N. I mean, that thing, I was already really excited about it. And then getting to experience it, I was like, man, this thing is so good. It's so good. There's like very few cars, as much as I like love, a lot of cars and how I blast a lot of cars. There's very few cars that like make me want to shout expletives. Like that was one of them where I was like so amped about that thing. I'm like wanting to shout expletives because it's so good. It just like makes you that excited. And so that's the one I think really recently. But there's been a lot over the years that just I think even Corvette CO6, again, another one very overhyped. Very, even myself, I just was like, oh, this thing is going to be like heaven on earth. And sure enough, it was. But like, it met all those expectations. And I was maybe expecting or thinking maybe there'll be a letdown here. Surely it can't be all perfect. And it's like, no, it's basically all perfect. As long as you have a healthy fuel budget, I suppose. But Yeah, so there's been a lot of cars like that that are super good, and actually do meet all expectations. I'd say there's a more than you might expect, honestly, where I do come into it with being like, okay, well, like this is better. It has to be good, especially these days with the pricing we have of all these things. It's like, well, this better be good if this is gonna be this expensive. And then sure enough, it's like, well, yeah, it is really good. But obviously that's not always the case. Nissan Z Nismo is a prime example of having expectations, going into it with an open mind, and then being like, not good, not good, not good, bad, sketchy, and just wasn't the best in many ways if you if you watch that video. So I mean, again, I'm not a cheerleader for everybody here, but that's just one of them where it did definitely fell far below expectations for me. But Michelle says, I watched your 2020 330i review again. Really seems like a good buy with how solid the current crop of BMWs are with the B48, 58 engines. Yeah, I mean, they're super reliable. And I still am a little iffy about the electronics long term, but from a motor standpoint, absolutely. I mean, they are super good. I think even didn't Akio Toyota even say like the B58 is like insanely reliable, and that's part of the reason why they're so confident about using that motor in the Supra. I mean, they're fantastic motors. The B48, I mean, not only just that stuff, but I mean, it's also benefiting Mini. Mini, I think this past year jumped up to one of the most reliable brands because you have a lot of those old R56s and R53 Minis going off the roads because they were not very good vehicles reliably. But now this, current, or I guess now we have the brand new ones that came out, but the most recent generation here, they're all running B48s, for the most part. And as a result, they are super reliable. People are piling on hundreds of thousands of miles, no problems. Again, you'll have the quirky, European, maintenances and extra little things here and there, but motor wise, no worries. So 330i is a great buy. I really like that vehicle. Anything else of the B48, B58 too, I'd be inclined to, recommend. Again, watch out for the electronics and depreciation, those other things. But outside of those things, I mean, they're fantastic. And Austin says, speaking of waiting to buy electric vehicles used, the new 500e looks cool for 20 grand, but 35 MSRP is crazy. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think, especially with how Fiat, is so friendly with discounts. I mean, they're probably, if you were going into a dealer in America, Fiat's probably one of the top ones, I would assume, to give you a discount, and a large discount at that. So, I don't know anyone who's probably going to be paying MSRP for a 500e. Maybe a few early adopters that, are super fanatical about Fiat or something, but I can't imagine more than a couple dozen people paying MSRP for those before they get some big discounts on them. And you're right. I mean, used market for those is going to be probably crazy if anyone actually buys them new to put them on the used market eventually. But yeah, I think that vehicle, again, I've not driven it yet. I'm hoping to review in this fall. We'll see. I'm sure it'll get about 10 views on YouTube, but I'm personally curious. I'm going to do it for myself. But I think, yeah, it'd be a great little commuter as long as it's reliable, which could be a little bit of a unknown there with, Fiat not typically always being super reliable, at least for the ones we get here in the States. But yeah, if they can have them for a nice, good discount, it'd be a great little commuter car for people. It doesn't have to be your road trip, do everything car, but just to get to work and back and save a bunch of money on gas, But yeah, I think 500e has a little bit of promise at the right price. Luke says, I look forward to this stream every week. Do you have a favorite car brand's new car smell? I noticed they all smell a little different. It's funny you asked that. That's a good question, actually. So there's a couple that I really like. There's some that are a little funky. Like Mercedes recently, like Mercedes, like they kind of smell bad. And I'm like wondering, like, is it like the people who were driving this before me? Is it like the car wasn't cleaned well? I just don't know. I feel like all the Mercedes I've gotten recently, I'm like, ooh, like this actually is like not even like neutral. This is like actively bad, not horribly so, but like not pleasant, especially for a new Mercedes. But the one that I think always jumps out to both Beth and I is typically Hyundai and even Kia, but especially Genesis. I don't know if it's just like the extra stuff in Genesis because it's like a similar fragrance, if you want to call it that, but in the Genesis, for anyone who's a Disney fan, it kind of smells like Disney. Like when you go to Disney World or something, it kind of has, if you are familiar with that, it kind of has that kind of a smell. And Beth, she loves every time we get in a Genesis. She's like, it smells like Disney. And now Genesis is doing some of the perfume stuff and all that in the GV80, where there's these fragrances they're pumping into the cabin. So that might kind of throw that out the window. But the natural scent of those are, I think, some of the best. And also, not only is it just like, if you're not into Disney, it's also just a very fresh, almost chlorine kind of smell to the Genesis. Not, again, in a bad way, but just it's a very clean, kind of refreshing kind of scent, interestingly enough. Because this is something that I do experience probably more than the average person. So that's definitely one of the standout ones. I always love Audis, especially the high-end Audis, because it just smells like leather everywhere. BMW is also great with the X5M competition, where that just had these wonderful leather smells, which is, for me, it's a smell I really enjoy. So whenever there's lots of leather, that's always good. Let me think. I think those are probably the top ones off the top of my head. There's a lot of others that are still totally pleasant and fun new car smells still, but I think those are probably the top ones that stand out. Fun question, Luke. Thanks for asking that. Raphael says, I was really happy with the charger sound. Not having sound has been the deal breaker with EVs, and it sounds good. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Raphael, but I think we're in the minority, at least based off the comment section, even for my weekly update when I was talking about but yeah, I'm just, it's, and I think you can turn all this stuff off. So if you want a silent charger, like, you can still do that. It's just about giving people choices, and people that want to have that, why rain on their parade? I think it's good to give people the choice. Cars says, I've been seeing full-size pickups from the early 90s, and I always marvel at how they are shorter than the Maverick. It would be fun if Nissan brought back a real small truck like the old Datsun. Yeah, I'd love to see Nissan do something like a Maverick, and even smaller. You're right. I mean, and Toyota knows this market very well from the decades they were in that. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen something faster from Toyota, being as large as Toyota is. Why we're still waiting on a Maverick, rival from Toyota. I think, there's talks that stuff's hopefully happening. And maybe it's right around the corner. Maybe we have a few more years to wait. I don't know. But I think that, Nissan too. I mean, any of those companies that all did those, again, back in the 80s and 90s, like, easy money, I would think. Again, especially showing that, Ford was the pioneer. They took the guesswork out of it. Like, yes, this is a good idea. People will buy them if you can build them fast enough. There's not really a whole lot of risk here anymore. Like, it's not like the Maverick has some secret sauce that the others can't just copy and paste with their own badges. Like, it's not hard. Like, as long as they can hit the price point, which I don't think is going to be too terribly difficult. So, hopefully, we do see some type of little Nissan truck, and Toyota and whoever else. I think everyone, could do it. And I think it'd be great to have, a resurgence. And again, this is something, if we want to get people weaned off these large vehicles, stuff like the Maverick is the way to do it. You still got your truck bed if you want that. You still have, I'd say usable space. It's, probably worse, like rear legroom wise, compared to like a compact sedan these days. But, it's usable, it works. And for enough people, it's enough. And so, I'd love to see more companies kind of, latch onto that and do that, some more. And Rafi, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, hey man, overall review of the Integra Type S. I love it. It's a much better daily. I drive 20,000 miles a year, and comfort is key now. It's that old age. I will miss my FK8. Your review helped to make my choice. I appreciate that. I'm so happy that it helped you. Again, that's why I do these videos, is to help you guys find a car you'll love. So that I really appreciate that feedback, Rafi, and I'm so glad you like the Integra. And I mean, I agree with you. If I was in your position doing 20,000 miles a year, I'd be wanting to upgrade to an Integra Type S as well. I mean, just so good in so many ways. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And it's another one of those cars. It's on my dad car list of cars I wouldn't mind owning someday if I had that kind of money to spend and needed something, with that kind of practicality. Absolutely, I would go for that. And I think I definitely would pay the extra money too for Integra Type S over FL5. As much fun as FL5 is just, I think Integra to me, again, just gives that extra polish. Maybe it is the age thing. You're similar age to me, but I think it's definitely the way to go. So Good choice in my opinion as well, but I'm so glad that it's worked out well for you. And thanks again for the super chat. And let me see here, other member questions. So, and apologies for all the other spam here as well, but thanks Zachary for staying on top of those. Let me see, where was I here? So Danny says, here's the mileage for the cars in the family. 01 Corolla is 135,000 miles. Wow, that's low for an 01 Corolla. That's impressive. 09 Accord, almost 86,000. Also low. Man, your family must not drive very far. That's impressive mileage. And then 19 Bolt, 65,000. Battery was replaced at about 35. So that's, you're racking them up. So that's the main driver, I guess. Makes sense. You're not paying for gas. That's great. And 19 Traverse, 34,000 miles. Nice. Well, hope they all continue to treat you and your family well. And yeah, it's great that you're able to keep those old JDMs, in such pristine shape. I'm sure with those low mileage, that's great. And let me see. So. Good Stick says, would you trade in your Mustang Mach-E for a Dodge Charger 4-door? No, I mean, first off, it's really big. Honestly, I'd have to measure. Our garage isn't huge. I honestly wonder if it will fit. It's that long, especially for that 4-door version. I mean, you guys will see whenever you see it in person if you haven't seen one yet. I'm not sure. I think they just were showing it publicly the first time at Roadkill Night, so I'm assuming most of you haven't seen one in person for the 4-door. It's long. I can't remember the dimensions, but I think they said it's longer than an S-Class. I mean, it's a big car. Like, so big that I'm almost, like, dreading parking it in a parking lot whenever I have one as a press vehicle. I'm almost dreading it as much as, like, driving a full-size pickup truck. Because you may actually need to have that kind of maneuvering going on, especially since I don't believe you get 4-wheel steer right in the Charger 4-door. I don't think there's 4-wheel steer in any of them. So, it's gonna be a big old boat. To me, it almost strikes me as like the 70s land yacht sized stuff, like big. Like whatever you're expecting, based off of pictures or whatever, increase your expectations by probably 25%. I'd say at least as far as your size expectations, and that's probably accurate as far as how big it's going to look in person. Again, I'm sure the measurements are out there. You could, measure it out for yourself and get some comparisons to get a better idea, but it's huge. So from a practicality standpoint, sure, it probably would have just as much space, if not more space than the Mach-E. But yeah, I don't think a Dodge Charger would work for Beth. And honestly, it's going to be too expensive. So it's just that as well. Even a base Charger 4-door is going to probably end up being, more than the 2-door. And we're already talking about, those starting at 60, at least right now. So yeah, it's probably going to be way out of my price range anyway, even if we did want that, but I don't think Beth would want a Charger. I wouldn't be opposed, but yeah, she already gets enough grief in her Mach-E every once in a while. If we were driving on an electric Charger, we get harassed by every single current Mopar fan or former Mopar fan. So I don't know if we want to put a target on our backs like that as well. So I hope that, people are brave enough to buy them. I mean, no knock on anyone that goes for one, but I just feel like it's going to be a tough road for Dodge and for the owners of those things as well, who, at least if you're in the enthusiast crowd, and you want to have people not give you crap, I think it's you'll be beating them in all the races because it'll be way faster than most likely than the gas ones, but it's not going to make a lot of friends, I don't think. Let me see. Other member questions here. Luke says, did you hear that Toyota might make their own engine for the GRD6 in a few years? You might have gone over it before and I just forgot. Yeah, I think I covered this a couple of times now in the weekly updates because it's been in the rumor mill a couple of times now. And as far as, I think there's a decent chance that's going to happen. I just don't know. It seems like a big ask as far as not only the engine, but the whole platform is reportedly going to be, basically all new and just for that one car. And with how little they sell of those, sure, Toyota's got money to light on fire if they want, but I don't know. It seems, even with Akio Toyota and those guys pushing stuff through, and even Koji Sato, the current CEO, big, GR fans and enthusiasts and all that, but I still don't envision that, going well. And hopefully my camera, it looks like it's a little foggy. I don't know if it's just like smudged or something, but hopefully the quality is okay tonight. In addition to, again, hopefully the spamming has it looks like it is still going. It's truly wild. All right, so let me see. But yeah, as far as I don't know if that's gonna. I just don't know what to believe, honestly, with the G86 rumors. I'd love to see a totally bespoke sports car that's $30,000 with a awesome engine and awesome new platform with no partnerships. That'd be great. But I would not hold your breath for that. I could be completely wrong though, and maybe that's what they will end up doing. Jonathan says, "What are your thoughts on the Motor Trend guy saying that the STI will come back based on his source with the 2.4 liter that's in the WRX?" I didn't hear that rumor. I'm not sure. Yeah, that must have been something recent or something I just somehow missed. I hadn't heard that. It's not hard to do. I mean, they're already 80% of the way there with the TS version here coming for 2025. So all they got to do at this point is put in the diff and then just the motors essentially, and throw a wing on the back and maybe a couple other little things, tweak the suspension and all that. But you already got the Brembos and stuff. So I mean, they are already kind of making an STI light with the TS at this point. So I just say it's an easy lift if they can do it. Absolutely, I don't see why they couldn't. But I've been saying that for the past few years, ever since they discontinued the STI with no successor. I've been like, "What are you doing? This shouldn't be hard. This is not a big ask, really." But yet, here we are a couple years later with no STI still. So that's another one where I don't know what to believe anymore. Because again, logic would say, sure, they should have had it for the past 3 years, and they haven't. So, I kind of have to throw logic out the window there because there's no logic happening from my perspective, at least. It's Subaru with the decisions on STI. So, obviously, I think the only thing that has changed recently that may bring an STI sooner was that the original plan, when they said this kind of at the end of their farewell to the last gen STI, was they said, there was something that basically said 2028, or in the next, we will have an STI in the next generation or something they had said. And so that was kind of putting it around 2028 for the new one of those, supposedly going to be all electric. So if their plan was to do a 2028 all electric STI, and they're making those plans a few years back when you couldn't build EVs fast enough, I think that now, seeing how the market has slowed, how things have shifted, could maybe make them be like, okay, well, maybe the world won't be ready for an electric STI in 2028. And so maybe they are, especially, the Japanese companies, want to be a little more conservative. Maybe they will say, all right, we need to do one more gas-powered version. We have a decent lifespan on it now versus, thinking it was going to be shorter while they hurry up and scramble everything to EV. If that has all been kind of slowed down a good bit, then, that could open up, I think, more incentive to do an STI than maybe they previously had. But I still don't know why they would have set out this generation altogether, regardless. But maybe that's part of what's fueling that rumor. And maybe there's something to it. Again, maybe there isn't. I'm not sure. But I'd love for them to be right about that. That'd be great. And let me see. So sorry, I missed a couple things popped up here. So Jeremy, thank you so much for being a member for 27 months now. I really appreciate it. Again, I think one of the first and longest running members here. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for all the support. He's saying, hey, Matt, why aren't there more plug-in hybrid luxury sedans? Seems like for compact and mid-size, S60 is the only option now. Yeah. And it is interesting because, when you look at, the large stuff, you have S-Class, plug-in hybrid. I think E-Class, right, offers it as well. And then you have it for 530E, I believe, for 5 Series. There's also there's 330E is still out there, right? So I think that's another plug-in hybrid compact and midsize. There's some of them out there. Not a ton. I'm still kind of surprised we haven't seen like a plug-in hybrid Lexus ES or something like that, or even LS for that matter. But yeah, I'd say there's a few, and there's gonna be a lot more coming. I mean, that's something for sure. We know Audi has talked about that, and there's Yeah, that's all the rage these days. Again, we will see if this phase with plug-in hybrids, fades, or what ends up happening as far as what's in favor with everyone in a couple of years. Because as we've seen the past couple of years, that's always been kind of shifting around as well. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. But there are a few out there for sure, and I think the ones like the S60 that I did sample was fantastic and makes a lot of sense. Again, if you do drive more mileage than what an EV does, or if you have limited charging capabilities, but you still do plug in every once in a while or something, I think a plug-in hybrid like the S60 could be great. And thank you again, Jeremy, for being a member for so long. I really appreciate it. And let me see. Sean, thank you so much for a very generous super chat as well. He says, more fans can be crap. I remember reading in the early 2000s about a guy who 2 JZ swapped an old Cornet. He said he stopped bringing it to car shows because Dodge fans kept getting mad to the point of trying to fight him. Yeah, I don't know. And, this is the thing, and I was getting comments even on the weekly update about people being like, oh, well, you're not a real enthusiast if you like the Charger or you like EVs in general or whatever. And it's just like, I feel like there used to be this thing. I mean, obviously, again, even in the early 2000s, there was, some of this stuff. This is stuff that's been going on for a long time. But I don't know. I feel like, especially in the past few years, like there used to be a little bit more of like live and let live. Like, yeah, sure, that's dumb, or that's we'd make fun of whatever kind of vehicles you want to make fun of because it's not your cup of tea. Like, that's fine. But like, usually like people weren't so like in your face about it and weren't so like rude, it's just be like, oh, like you roll your eyes at the, whatever kind of car you don't like that's, driving past or whatever. And then you go on about your day instead of, almost into fights over this stuff and everything. It's just like, yeah, I don't know why no one can recognize in the car world that like people like different things and you can still be an enthusiast because you like Hummers or Cybertrucks, or again, which I've had plenty of hate for the Cybertruck, just I don't like it. I think it's, a bad idea in a variety of different ways, but like I'm not gonna like be mad at someone for like getting it, or as long as they're driving it responsibly and they're not bothering me, like I'm not gonna bother them. I'm not gonna like give them crap for it. And like I mean, I guess this is just a cultural shift in general. People just can't live and let live. Richard Simmons is a prime example here of, just, spending your entire evening trying to spam a comment section because apparently you don't have anything better to do. Just the way that, society has changed. And I don't know how that's ever going to improve, but I hope someday it does. Yeah, thank you again, Sean, for the very generous super chat. I really appreciate that. And let me see here. I'm trying to find my spot, and there's extra scrolling tonight since we got a bunch of these dumb deleted comments to worry about. But let me see. So Vishal says, thanks for your input, Matt. My friend who bought the 540i a few months ago has been a bad influence. Now I'm looking at CPO BMWs. Yeah, I mean, especially CPO is a great way to go about it because, again, you get all that savings. You got the extended warranty there. And I believe they even offer options, if it's a CPO car, to add in more warranty coverage. And in that kind of a case, if you can, slather on the warranty and you extend that puppy out as long as you can, like, if that's something that, if you really love the car and you got the warranty coverage, I mean, you still might have the inconvenience of having to take it to a dealer. I mean, like Beth's Mercedes, when we had those, once or twice a year, the dashboard would light up like a Christmas tree. And all right, I got to make an appointment and go take it in. They reflash it, do whatever. And then it's back, a few hours later. It's not the end of the world. And especially if you love the car enough, like it could be something that's totally fine to deal with, assuming you even have those kind of issues. There's lots of people that never have electrical issues, at least not for a long time. So especially on a CPO, you pick up a nice CPO one, nice long warranty, absolutely, that I can completely endorse, especially the BMWs. Mercedes, I'm still don't love their quality, recently, but absolutely, I think BMW is definitely a great pick there. I also think Audi is a great pick for a CPO. I think both of those are, pretty solid mechanically these days because, again, a lot of it is, tried and true technology. We're not talking about cutting edge engines anymore. We're talking about stuff that's been around. We're talking about simple 2-liter turbos and inline sixes that are pretty proven, things like that. So there's less of a learning curve. There's less of this, beta tester kind of stuff going on. It's just solid mechanicals. So Yeah, and this is why I've been covering more of those CPO stuff. Like, I did the M340i in addition to the 330. I did the 540 as well. In the past year or so here. I mean, they're solid cars, especially for the money they're going for these days. Absolutely. It's another great alternative to these insanely high prices. It's like, why would you spend 45, 50 grand on, I don't know, name your car that's, super expensive when you can have a really nice couple-year-old BMW for 30 grand or so. Like, it's, I mean, there's, especially again with a CPO warranty to, take the risk out of it. Absolutely. Great pick. Austin says, too bad new car smell is so bad for us. Chemical off-gassing. Yeah, that is something that I think about from time to time, especially since I'm getting, a lot of dosage of that new car smell for sure. And I think that's something, companies are trying to improve some of that stuff. With recycled materials, I think do a little bit less, and there's some other things they're trying to do to mitigate that. And obviously it affects various climates differently, depending on how much you have that, stuff baking in the sun and everything. But yeah, definitely not an ideal thing. But yeah, that's unfortunately one of the hazards of the job is breathing in the new car smell. But yeah. And Austin says, did the real Richard Simmons even have rainbow attire? I don't remember. Yeah, I honestly, aside from like the memes and then people like wondering if he went missing or whatever, I'm not sure anything about Richard Simmons, honestly. But may the real one rest in peace. And let me see. Joel says, hey, Matt, what was Beth's thoughts on the Ioniq 5N? Did she get to drive it? If so, what were her impressions of it? She did not drive it. She really liked the regular Ioniq 5. I'm not sure I think she took it for a brief little drive. And I think she was fine with it. There's just a few things on the interior that she wasn't in love with on the regular 5. But she didn't drive it. I mean, Beth's not really an enthusiast. She really knows, like, she can spot cars very well. She likes luxury cars, but she's not an enthusiast as far as like driving fast. Like, she can, drive fast if she needs to or whatever, but like, she's not into the sports car. She's not into that whole world. She basically really didn't know a whole lot about cars until we started, being together. And then, now she's, she can spot stuff better than I can half the time. So she's learned very fast and, is, really good at all that kind of stuff. But, you put her on a racetrack, she'd, she's never been on one before. It'd be, like a whole new experience. So there's no real insight to gain from Beth's thoughts on it, unfortunately. But she saw that I was having a blast in it, and she liked the way it looked and all that. So yeah, it's another vehicle I would happily daily drive if I needed something like that and I could afford it. And let me see, 2-track jacks. I think most of the people complaining about the sound of the Charger EV are just heavy fanatics that are mad it's gone. Yeah, and there's always a changeover period of people that anything that new comes out, there are gonna always be people who are like, I don't like it just because it's new, or I don't like it because it's unfamiliar. And now you have, the extra weight of the EV thing, which has a whole lot of baggage to go along with it. And so, it's just like a perfect storm for an extra aggressive response against, something new and unfamiliar. And so I think there's some of that for sure. And this is why, like, someone asked me in the weekly update, how long will it take for Charger fans to come around to the EV version? And I think, my answer was, I think for the ones that truly care about straight line performance and nothing more, and again, straight line performance at relatively legal speeds and, speeds that aren't over 155 miles per hour, whatever the new ones top out at, at sane speeds, I said they're going to be won over. I think if they truly want to win drag races, whenever they're losing all the drag races, the electric ones, then they'll be like, oh crap, I don't want to lose. For a lot of people, I mean, I'm not a super competitive person myself, but for a lot of people, like, they do not want to lose. And so it's like, whatever I'm going to get to like not lose is what I'm going to get. And so I think for those people that must win, whether it's at a red light or at a drag strip, hopefully at a drag strip, but, I think, and this is something we've already been experiencing with Tesla Model 3 performances, blowing the doors off of anyone, that actually tries to challenge them, for years now. But, I think especially with the whole the thing with chargers, I think there's going to be a little bit more of that of, it's going to sting a little more to lose to the electric one. And I think that, while some of them might be like, well, I still have a V8 and, justify the old ones, the fact is they're going to be slower. And so the people who truly care only about straight line performance, it's going to either be you just lose from now on, or you go and get the electric one. So we'll see which way that goes. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of both. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It's so wild the times we're living in, and just it's just new frontier we've never had to worry about, or even see these things kind of unfolding the way they are these days. It's kind of fascinating, as long as you're not too burned out by all the other crap that goes along with it. But let me see. So Danny says, here's a follow-up with the 2009 Accord. It's 15 years old, almost 86,000 miles. It's gone through 3 sets of pads and rotors, because the 8th gen Accords are known to eat up rotors and pads. And that's unfortunate. But yeah, that's something for a lot of cars that like to eat. Also, I mean, most of the German vehicles, that's another thing to usually keep an eye out for. I mean, like Beth's Mercedes, I think it needed rear rotors. I can't remember if it was her first one or her second one that she had. Maybe it was both of them. I cannot remember, but I know at least one of them needed rear rotors before the lease period was up. A 3-year lease period. It needed new rotors and pads. I think the pads were needed first, and then rotors eventually. And even I was just talking to my brother-in-law. He's got a 2020, I think it's 24. He's got it, 24. He got it last year, but a 24 Mini Cooper Clubman, John Cooper Works. And he's like, yeah, I already need new rear brakes. Like new, I think it's just pads for him, but he's got to replace brake pads on a car that I think is a year, maybe 2 years old. Maybe his is a 2023. At the most, it's like 2 years old, though. I don't even know if it's that old. And he's already got to worry about brakes on, a Mini too. We're not talking about a big heavy vehicle that really is, draining down a brake pad. I mean, talking about a Mini. So yeah, it's not great when cars eat through brakes like that. And he says, also, it's my grandma's car, hence the low mileage. Well, that explains it. Well, that's great. I'm glad it's treating her well, though, hopefully, aside from all the brakes. Luke says, people suck. It's a shame you have to make a vehicle choice based on people on the road. Yeah, it is. It is a shame. And I mean, I think this is part of why we're seeing so many people going to trucks and SUVs, is I think, especially if you live in a place like Texas where every other vehicle is an F-150, it's this arms race of like, well, I don't want to feel vulnerable on the road in some tiny little vehicle. And so, you want to have something big as well to feel safe, just to feel safe. And so that kind of is, again, this snowballing effect. And then you have everyone driving around in F-150s. And so this is kind of why, like with the Mach-E, one of the reasons why we really liked it is the fact that like neither Beth or I wanted something that was large. We wanted something smaller, but we wanted something very safe still. And that's kind of one of the perks of EVs, is that, especially the smaller ones, like they're heavy. They're not like, insanely heavy and a risk as much, as like stuff like a Hummer and things like that, the Cybertruck, but like, it's heavier. It's, aced all the crash tests and all that, but it's still small. So gives us like, okay, well, we kind of have physics on our side, hopefully, but we don't have to be inconvenienced by some giant thing that's the size of, RV. And so, I think that was kind of one of the sweet things about the Mach-E that, is really nice. I mean, you can say the same thing about Ioniq 5 or any of these other, smaller EVs, that are still have the big heavy batteries in them to kind of even out the playing field if you do happen to have the bad luck of, running into something large and heavy. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And Mike says, on the next press drive you go on for a midsize pickup, ask them why not make the cab bigger? Why such drastic difference between half ton? I get the garage argument, but just make the bed smaller. Yeah, I can ask. I will. Let me see what's the next one. Next thing I'm actually driving is a GM product. So they would be a good one to ask. So yeah, I can see if I can. I'm not sure I'll be dealing with the right team. But if I can run into one of the GM people that might have a good answer for me there, that's something I'll certainly ask. Because yeah, I mean the garage argument, I feel like that can't be the only reason, because I mean look at how many people already park outside anyway with their trucks. I feel like that's not like a deal breaker if it were to be bigger. or just again offer two options and have, like for example in GM's case, have the Colorado and then have something a little bit bigger, or give that to GMC if you want to do a premium thing and have it bigger. Have GMC do something that's a little bigger just to give people the option or something. I don't know. That's a good question though. I'll have to remember that and write that down here to remember that. Yeah, that's a question I'd love answered as well. So thanks for that, Mike. And Good Stick says, I'm open to electric sports cars. People complain about the loud exhaust. So with speaker sounds, you could turn the sound inside the car or outside. Yeah, and that's one of the things I loved about Ioniq 5N is, most of that car's sounds are on the inside. So if I want to have the, crackling and the popping and all the, immature stuff, as some people would call it, I can have all that just for myself, my own personal little concert, the same way people jam out to their favorite songs in the car, or they, are geeking out on their favorite podcast, whatever the case is. Like, my soundtrack is the car, and, and then again, you're not bothering anybody else. And I mean, for some people, again, they like making that statement. They like the impression it has on others around them. But yeah, it just comes out of personality type, I guess. But it'd be great if you can, turn the stuff outside on or off to your liking, stuff on the inside on or off. I think it's, again, it's just options and just choices. This is what I loved about the Bullet, even whenever that came out. Again, still a gas-powered regular car, but I had the choice of, do I want a quiet exhaust or a loud exhaust? Do I want stiff suspension or soft suspension? What drive mode do I want to be in? Do I want to have the throttle be razor sharp, or do I want to have it relaxed? What color do I want my gauges to be? All these things, it's all just customization. I think this is just taking that to the next generation. And I don't see how any of that is bad. It's more choices for people. If people want to ignore all of them, that's fine. If you want to get in a Mustang, hack off the active exhaust, toss out the MagneRide dampers, have the gauges in one mode all the time, and never play with any of it, you can still do that. But the choice is still there. So yeah, that's why I welcome any of this stuff with open arms. It shows that companies are trying hard, I'd say, trying to do these things in a cool way and in a fun way. And if people don't like it, again, that's fine. You can just turn it off. So that's why I don't get the hate for the options. The same way I'm not going to get mad if a company offers a bright pink interior. Like, sure, I wouldn't spec it, but I'm not going to be mad for giving people the option. If that makes people happy, then knock yourself out and have a bright pink interior. I don't care, but like, why get mad about options? It just seems, like an odd thing. But again, we live in the world of Richard Simmons here, so can't make sense of anything these days. But Danny says, Zach, you're the MVP of the night. I agree. Zach is the MVP of the night here. I really appreciate it, Zach. And yeah, I'm gonna have to find like a special way to honor you for your service here to keeping this chat stream here somewhat. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe YouTube must not have saved my thing, because there's no way they created this many usernames over the course pre 24 hours from here. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know what's going on YouTube. This is crazy. But it's also just sad. Like, imagine doing this just, I don't, like, yeah. Hey, Sean says, what's with the troll and Matt make somebody mad? I would love to know. I would honestly love to like get an actual like human comment from Richard Simmons about what is the motivation here, just because it's, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess some people don't have very much to do with their lives, and instead of actually having a meaningful existence, they decide to try and ruin everyone else's. It's crazy. But let me see. Austin says, it's not just the car roadmap. Public discourse is seriously broken these days. I agree. It's sad, and it's, yeah. I won't go on a tangent about society, but I don't know. It's hard to be optimistic about the path of humanity. It just in general. I'm talking like way zoom out. Like, I'm not talking about America. I'm not talking about like other places. I'm just literally like, as human beings, it's just like, I don't know. And honestly, I think a lot of it comes back to just this, social media, being able to hide behind usernames, being able to, just have access to honestly too much in some ways. I'm an old soul, but I kind of miss, the days where you got your news from a newspaper. It talked about the things that went on in your little area, maybe a few national things or something. But like, as human beings, we're not designed to take on all the problems of the world, every messed up thing that's going on in the world, deal with everyone's problems, everyone's dramas, hearing everyone's dirty laundry, everyone's complaints on Facebook or whatever. It's just like, our brains can't handle it. And that's why like everyone's just like short circuiting and everyone's just so burned out. There's so much mental health issues these days. I mean, it's just like, again, I won't go on a too long of a tangent, but it's just like, it's just crazy how I hope that, something kind of, saves us from ourselves, I guess is the, the right way to put it. But Good Stick says, why do Teslas get so much crap on them? They proved that electric cars can be cool. Excluding Elon Musk, the cars themselves are ridiculed by car people. Yeah, and I think there is some of that, but also I think there's a lot of enthusiasts that have also crossed over that really like them and that are, I don't know. I feel like to me, maybe it's just my impression like around here, but I feel like, whenever I did go to Cars and Coffees in the past, there was like an electric row, and that's where most of the Teslas hung out, and they're all very friendly people, and again, we're talking a few years ago. I'm not sure how the demographic has changed now with Elon's flipping and all that, but it was always like, pretty cool. And I mean, I've always said, I even just said whenever the Model 3 Performance Highland came out, I'm like, if you want fast straight line performance, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. If you want the fastest thing in a straight line, for what are they charging? 45 grand for like a 3.3 seconds 0 to 60. Like, don't even bother with the Charger EV. Just get a Model 3 Performance. I'm right there with you. I mean, again, unfortunately, Elon has made it more controversial than it should be to get a Tesla. And it's a shame because I think, again, there's a lot of smart people working at these companies that are trying to, do the best job possible. And then, to have a polarizing figure kind of rain on your parade, it's just, it's unfortunate because I think Tesla should be doing better than they are. I think that, Cybertruck, for all the hype that it's generating, and maybe Cybertruck will end up being a bet that pays off, but I can't help but think, what if they made a good Lightning competitor that was just normal-ish looking like most Teslas, honestly? How much better would that sell? How much more would that have been embraced? And how much better off it would have been for Tesla? I don't know. Maybe Cybertruck again is the way of the future, and that's going to be the normal truck on the roads, in 10 years or something. But like, I just, I don't know. I mean, for me, again, the Tesla thing, it's kind of wrapped up in Elon, and I think that's part of the problem. But I think the cars, they had some glitches and stuff, and there's some complaints about like, build quality not being great on some of them. I think some of them have been great, and I think some of the stuff has been certainly addressed since, the past few years, whenever they had more of that. I think there still is some spotty build quality from what I've seen, but like, there's lots of other cars that have spotty build quality too, so it's not a unique Tesla problem. And so, I mean, I personally, like, objectively putting on my car reviewer hat, like, again, if we put Elon to the side and and if that doesn't affect your thoughts on Tesla, like just as a car company, like I still think that they're very competitive in a lot of ways. They do need new product. I think that's kind of the problem is they also for so long have thought that they are above everyone else from a, they had their fans and their following. And so, you can just do whatever and people will buy them. And, I think they're now seeing that now there's more and more competition, they need to do more stuff to be competitive. And, this is why, like, I'd love to see them add CarPlay in because I know so many people that, still want CarPlay or Android Auto, and that's one of the reasons keeping them out of a Tesla or a Rivian or now GM vehicles, so like, I'd love to see them kind of make some concessions there to improve the appeal, especially with how their sales have been dropping so fast and especially with the uphill battle of, Elon, again, polarizing the brand. It's just I'd love to see them kind of improve and bring out new product, do the CarPlay, do a few other little things that, are lacking compared to other competitors. And then I think it could, really power them to a next level of being the leader like they have been for so long. And I agree, they proved that electric cars can be cool. They are the reason why electric cars are cool. Maybe another company would have cracked it someday, but I think that absolutely if we, reverse the clock and think back to how we all thought about Tesla, maybe in 2019 or something like that, it was, most people would have probably said they're a cool, sleek, fast kind of thing. And they were fresh at that point for most of them. And, there was this excitement and it's just like, they kind of let it die on the vine, I think is kind of the biggest problem with a lot of the stuff, again, outside of the Elon stuff. It's just, the car world expects a refresh every 3 or 4 years. They expect a new generation every 5 or 6 years. You can't get away with these old cars that look the same for years and years and years and then think people are going to be excited about them, especially with the competition. It just, so I think they're seeing that like the fandom only takes them so far. And so what are they going to do? Are they going to finally go to an update cadence, like everyone else, and do new stuff on a more regular basis? Are they going to, do the things that people have been asking for a long time for? Or are they going to, stick to their method and the way they've done things for a long time and ride it all the way to the ground? I don't know. We'll see. But I just think that, it was easy for them to be the top dog because there was no competitors, and now there's competitors. And so you got to compete. So, I mean, I totally can relate to Tesla. I'm kind of in the same predicament of not keeping up with competition. And, when I had way less competitors, I got way more views, and now I got to fight for, views a lot more than I used to. And, but it's just, trying to struggle to keep up with competition. It's not easy, especially when you're used to doing things your way and all that. It's tough. So I'm kind of, in some ways, I'm kind of in a similar kind of boat to Tesla as far as just trying to, keep things fresh and being one of the longer players in the segment there. And Luke says, I personally don't like electric vehicles, but buy whatever you want with your money. Absolutely. I wish it could be that simple for others. And an old cookie, I appreciate the info there on Richard Simmons for those maybe not super familiar with the real Richard Simmons. Sean says he was a American treasure. Unfortunately, can't say the same for the spammer here that keeps blowing up the chat. But hopefully they'll get bored of this sometime. I don't know. And let me see. Let me see. There's apparently old Cookie says he hadn't heard about him before today. Crazy. Well, I guess Richard Simmons is educating the world on Richard Simmons. Austin says, I grew up with the real Richard Simmons. He was a positive guy who wanted to help people with their weight and health. Yeah, I wish this spammer shared the same sunny view on life. Dylan says, I think a factor for many enthusiasts that hate EVs is we love modding our cars. Appearance and mechanical, can't do anything really for EVs for mechanical, so you just get that built versus bought thing. Okay, yeah, I can see that as well. I personally never encountered a huge hate against the bot crowd versus the build crowd. I mean, I've certainly heard this is built not bought kind of thing, and that pride thing, which is warranted in many ways. Again, I don't see the looking down on people for not doing that, but I can see that for sure, and I guess there's some of that playing in as well. So I hadn't thought about that component before, so I appreciate that new component there as far as kind of rationalize some of that. But I mean, that's another thing, that's just with this next generation of stuff, like Dodge has the direct connection stuff. And it's unfortunate you have to go through the manufacturer for all these things. But, there's going to be those opportunities to boost power. I think even the Mach-E, they just said you can buy more power, which for some people is a slap in the face because it's like, well, if my motor is capable of this power, then I should be able to put out this power. But, motors, gas engines for a long time have been capable of way more than what they do from the factory as well, as we see with the entire mod scene. So to me, it's not as insulting as some other people, make it out to be. But, we're doing that with the electric stuff now of, having, software updates to give you new, extra power, and you pay for it that way. I know it's not the same, obviously, and there's not as much choice, but, it's at least something. But I know, that's why SEMA hates EVs as well, because there's no aftermarket really outside of, the appearance stuff. So, that's definitely a challenge. And hopefully there's ways to kind of, hot rod stuff in the future. Hopefully companies come up with ways. I mean, we're already seeing, these people putting Tesla powertrains into old classics and, playing around with stuff that, I'd love to see someday, someone take a Model 3 Performance because they really love the Model 3 Performance, but then they try and put in Hyundai software and try and put it. I mean, I'm sure these are impossible things, at least right now, but maybe these are things same way we would have thought stuff 50 years ago, it was like, it's impossible to have, a computer changing your horsepower, so I'm hoping that maybe in the future we'll be able to be like, hey, I really want Ioniq 5N stuff in a Tesla Model Y or something. And you could, maybe build your own things kind of that way. In addition to just retro modding old stuff, but hopefully even just between EVs, kind of having some swapping back and forth could be cool. I don't know. We'll have to see how technology progresses if that kind of stuff ever gets opened up. And I appreciate the positive discussion about the real Richard Simmons there, saying he was energetic, supportive, and kind. Yeah, and we certainly need more of that these days. Yeah, Austin says, I think same thing I just said. Yeah, I'm sure people find ways to bring EV modding to the masses. I think that'll come eventually. Danny says, sorry for all the questions and everything, but I've gotten criticized online for wanting to find this car. The car in question is a 95 Toyota Tercel wagon SR5 four-wheel drive. I'm sure there's probably not a lot of them out there, but I think that's awesome. Hopefully you can find one. Best of luck on the hunt. And yeah, I mean, I really know almost nothing about those because that's kind of out of my wheelhouse. But yeah, I mean, I think those types of vehicles, though, those 80s and 90s JDM classics, especially if they're in good shape, because so many of those just rotted away just because, that was the problem, was just the rust is what killed those vehicles. The powertrain could have kept going, but the body around it just failed. And so, I'm hoping we see a nice collector car market for that kind of stuff, even though a lot of those people still probably would laugh at a Tercel or something. But, I think that those types of things could end up being big dollar things someday, for the people who grew up maybe with those vehicles and, want to relive those days in a way. I think it'd be cool to see how that stuff changes. We're already seeing that with the Radwood crowd and their appreciation for, all those, quirky, odd vehicles that people might have even hated, like Aztecs. I remember, all the hate that Aztecs got. And now you show up at a Radwood event with an Aztec and you don't get hate. You get laughs and you get people like smiling and being like, oh man, this is crazy. And so that's one of the nice things about time is, it kind of softens some of that stuff, I think. And so hopefully, it'll make people a little bit more open-minded about at least the stuff from the 80s and the 90s there that maybe wasn't super cool when it first came out. And yeah, Old Cookie, is saying appreciates the explaining about the real Richard Simmons. Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure why this other person is picking Richard Simmons, but yeah, Richard Simmons is definitely not at all in the same kind of spirit as this spammer for sure. And Mike says, what are your thoughts on dealers who don't participate in CPO programs for OEMs? Is it just them screwing over the customer in reality? I think, there's some back end stuff there as far as the hoops you got to jump through. There's investment there. You have to have the marketing stuff as well. And there's, some things that, a lot of companies, whenever they sell used, they are kind of excited about that because they can just service them without having to do warranty claims most of the time if it's a vehicle that's out of warranty. And then if you extend the warranty, then for them, it's kind of a pain because usually warranty work, I mean, I guess it depends on a variety of different factors, but typically it seems like it's more of a pain for companies to do warranty work because they have to submit it for approval with the OEM, and sometimes stuff gets kicked back, and sometimes they're on the hook for some of the difference on some of these things, and there's more headache there versus being like, you need new brakes, here's how much it costs, pay us, end of story. And, there's no strings attached there. There's no asking this guy and that guy. And, it's straightforward. I think some dealerships and stuff really appreciate that straightforwardness. So I think that's maybe a little bit of why, there's something against CPO programs. I feel like most dealers are usually doing CPO stuff. I haven't seen too many where like the manufacturer offers that and companies don't, and the dealers don't offer, support for that. I mean, I would assume that most manufacturers would almost require CPO support, but maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I can certainly see there may also be a component of trying to, screw the customer and just, again, just not having to deal with the headache of a warranty claim and just, wanting to just charge whatever and that's it. So probably a little bit of both for that. And another great question, Mike. Thanks for asking. Sean says he'd be jealous there. That's Tercel. Yeah, I'd love to see it. If you do end up ever finding one, Danny, please send a picture. I'd love to just see what one looks like these days. Because again, I'm sure they're so rare. There's probably only a few of those out there. And Good Stick says, I live in Seattle, and there is a guy in a Hellcat with a muffler delete that revs his engine at 2 in the morning. The city has a lawsuit against him, but he didn't do anything. Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. You live in Seattle. I think I read about. I can't remember the nickname they gave to him, but yeah, I saw they like dragged him into court, and I think that they do work out some kind of deal with him or something. Or I think he agreed to put it back to stock. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, to me, I don't think it's cool to be disturbing the peace. Especially 2 in the morning and stuff like that, I guess, especially as someone who's like a dad and, or even just, I mean, it's not even just with a kid's mindset, but people that just need good sleep, but especially with kids, if you haven't had a kid and the work that it takes to get them down to go to sleep sometimes, and especially when they're babies, it can really throw off schedules and disturb sleep and stuff. This is why I hate like the 4th of July for all the fireworks and stuff, because it's another thing that, the first few years there, it's like, oh, this is going to be a crappy night because everyone's got to launch off fireworks, which also terrify dogs. And that's another thing you can say about all this revving. It terrifies a lot of animals and stuff as well. And again, I'm not like saying that all cities should be totally silent or whatever, but like, just why, like why the need to, be having a muffler delete and revving your engine like crazy at 2 in the morning. If you're in the middle of nowhere and you're not bothering anyone, great. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a more courteous person. I just don't like ever disturbing anyone if I can avoid it. So aside from this spammer for whatever reason, I really disturb them if this is worth their entire 2 hours here. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully it's not affecting you too badly, Good Stick, but yeah, not cool in my mind. B. Mitchell says, speaking of media drives, have you gone on our press junket to the Minneapolis St. Paul area yet? Not yet. That is coming up here soon. Again, I don't know how much I'm at liberty to say. It's not like it's some crazy top secret thing, but usually they try and keep that stuff kind of under wraps until it's actually happening. But yeah, it'll be coming up soon here. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And again, I will let everyone know if I do happen to be in MSP and I happen to have any free time, I guess I should say, while I'm in MSP, which most likely won't happen, but hopefully we'll see what happens. And Austin says, my main problem with EVs is weight and current battery tech. I would also like to see better looking models. And I think all that stuff, will come eventually for sure. Sean says, I just realized that the troll isn't saying Mrs. M. Mrs. Moran in reference to Beth, but to Matt. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going through their head? Because it seems like it's a real circus in there. Abby Mitchell says, Doug must be paying for a troll or a bot tonight. Yeah, I know for sure that Doug's got better things to do. Even if it would be paying someone else to do it for him. No, I think, yeah, Doug, as much as I have differences with Doug, I think he's, what's the word? It seems like he's, a pretty solid guy for the most part. I won't go into the whole Doug tangent. There's some problematic things about Doug, but I don't think that trolling a comment section would be a Doug level thing. But Austin says maybe a fake Richard Simmons is still mad at you crowdsourcing the purchase of the EcoBoost Mustang, Matt. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's one of those, or maybe it's, yeah, I know a lot of people are still mad about me liking the Charger, me liking, any other EVs. I'm not an enthusiast because, I like anything that's not powered by a 15 mpg engine. So I don't know if it could be any variety of reasons. There's plenty of reasons to hate me, so it's all good. I'm sure he can go in his little voodoo doll and pick whatever he wants. But let me see. Ben says, hey, Matt, I recently watched your review on the Forester Sport. Do you think that Subaru is replacing Toyota as the beige vehicle company? I would absolutely say yes if we didn't have WRX and BRZ. But, even compartmentalizing those, we're just talking about, beige in regards to the segments that they're competing in. That's actually a perfect way to put it. I hadn't thought of it in that term before, but that is probably the most accurate way I could describe Subaru right now is beige. Yeah, I may actually kind of use that if that's okay with you. But yeah, that is a very good descriptor of Subaru. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Again, I still they still, have a few brownie points with me just because, again, BRZ and WRX are things that other companies still don't have the guts to do, especially with manuals and all that. So, I also know, I mean, I'm not like best friends with them or anything, but I've had dinners with the people in product planning at Subaru, with the engineers at Subaru. They're cool guys. The one lead engineer for Subaru, I think now he's maybe transferred over to the PR department. He had a 2001 Bullet Mustang. I think he actually still does. We kind of bonded over the Bullet thing whenever I was on either the BRZ or the WX drive. And like, they're really nice people. So that's why, like, knowing some of the behind the scenes it almost makes it harder to kind of, I guess, rationalize why Subaru is making the decisions they're making. Because the product planners were people who daily drove STIs, who, had fun cars, who are real enthusiasts, who do track time and, all these things. And so, I don't know if it's just the higher ups, if it's just, really higher ups that are just saying, like, this is what we want. If they just, had this mandate of, like, we must just maximize sales, do whatever you need to do. And they just, put it into an algorithm, and the algorithm spat out the 2025 Forester. It's like, here's the most inoffensive, but still strangely, like, not offensive, but, not good looking vehicle possible. And, I don't know. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that assessment, because I don't think Toyota's been beige, as far as a vibe for the company for a long time now. I think Toyota's made some really exciting stuff in the past 10 years, even. FRS is an example, but plenty of other things as well. And again, they're now especially extra exciting these days. But absolutely, I think, yeah, beige is probably the kind of emotion, if I put a word to it, that I kind of feel, seeing Subarus out on the road, especially since they're so common. And again, because I get more excited about a Camry than I do about a Forester these days, So yeah, it's a good one, Ben. Thanks for bringing that up. Austin says Tesla is definitely languishing, but it's also them trying to literally reinvent the wheel with everything. Yeah, I mean, some of that probably is a challenge as well. And Zachary says the modding EV comment is interesting. I like EVs just fine, and I'm not a modder. Yeah. So, I mean, and again, it all comes down to personal preference. And this is why the choices and the options are great, for the people who want to do that, who want to go crazy and do burnouts and, disturb the peace everywhere they go at 2 a.m. You still have that option with the new charger. And so, I think it's just good to give the options. I don't know when options and giving people choice became such a terrible thing. But that's, everyone just wants things their way and not giving people any options anymore. Good success. Now that electric cars are seen as a viable option, now its next big hurdle is that electric sports cars can continue to exist even though every EV is very quick. Yeah, it's a good point. And I think, the thing, I can't remember. I was seeing a discussion about this recently, about, with everything being so fast in a straight line, where's the differentiation? Like you're saying, what is a sports car whenever you have, all these crossovers doing 3 seconds 0 to 60? It's like, it's all just kind of throwing all those terms kind of out the window in a traditional sense. And so it's like, I think, what you're going to see is stuff like Charger, where it's like, this is how we make it different. They could have made a Model 3 knockoff and had the same exact performance as the Charger EV, but they chose to give it, this blocky look. And I think even Dodge was saying, with their presentations here recently, how, they didn't want to make another Jelly Bean, they wanted to do something bold. And so I think design's always been obviously very important, but I think design is going to be really super important. And honestly, between that and the user interface experience on the inside are going to be the top two, not only differentiators, but just like the biggest things bringing you to a car. Because if the powertrain and the propulsion and, all the mechanical stuff is irrelevant, as we go into the future, then all you have left is the styling inside and out. That's all there is, So I think, that's going to be the important thing, in addition to, again, just offering the option to do these old school things with EVs for those who want that, like the sounds, like also shifting, like we see in the Hyundai, and also like, Toyota's working on a simulated manual that can actually stall the vehicle if you so choose to have that capability. And so you'll have some of that, but I know there's a lot of EV fans that don't even like that. They're like, why are we mimicking the old ways? Let's like do new stuff. And I can understand that as well. People who, don't want to see a sequel to a movie. They want to see a fresh new idea for a movie instead. And, people who hate sequels probably will hate stuff like the Charger because it's like, I don't want a sequel. I want something new and fresh. And I think, they are, well served with the Tesla and others that do that. But again, giving people those options, I think is going to be another way to differentiate that'll be important, as we go into the future. In addition to, again, just that styling and that, user experience. And Brian, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, is the 2025 CT5e Blackwing Precision model automatic only, or is the manual going to be available? I'm pretty 99.9% sure that it is still available with the manual. I don't think there's anything on the Blackwings that prevents you from getting manual. And that's just a package. And I think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw in the press either photos or videos or something of it. One of the things they showed off was one with a manual. Yeah, I'm almost 100% certain that it's available with a manual. You definitely want to check with a dealer or something to confirm if you're planning on ordering one. But I'm 100%. I mean, because Cadillac is committed to the manual still. There is no wavering there with those vehicles. They know that a large chunk of people want those in a manual. And if you look at the used values, it's like $5,000 more for a manual Blackwing used versus an automatic one. So you're already seeing that price premium. And so I think, they can figure this out as well. Like if the manual is more desirable, so much so that people are paying $5,000 premium on the used market, then you better believe like you should keep offering the manual on the new, because there's clearly a lot of people, even just for a resale value standpoint, that are not going to be like, oh, maybe I should get the manual because I'm going to get $5,000 more whenever I go to flip it or sell it, in a few years whenever I'm done with it or whatever. So I'm pretty sure it comes with a manual. And sorry, I couldn't give you 100% sure answer, but I would bet money on it that yes, it can be available there with the manual for sure. And let me see. Where were we? Looks like I don't want to speak too soon, but maybe we finally ran out of fake usernames for the troll tonight. But let me see. Where was I? Zachary said, I often wonder how many cool cars we lost to cash for clunkers. Yeah, I know. I thought about that not too long ago as well, because I really love the Junkyard Gem series that Autoblog does about once a week. Merle Martin is the writer, and they hunt down all kinds of cool stuff in junkyards. And every once in a while, the Cash for Clunkers thing comes up about how that got rid of so many great cars. And yeah, I mean, I think that also is it's crazy to see how we have the average age of a vehicle on the road these days is 12.6 years now, even with Cash for Clunkers, which you thought would have, I mean, again, that was what now, 14 years ago or whatever. It's been a while, but that so many of those vehicles are still dragging that average backwards. Again, 12.6 is the average. That means there's stuff that's way older that survived that Cash for Clunkers phase. But yeah, I mean, imagine that, especially with how reliable cars of that generation were. Oh, there's a plane or something flying by in the window. I was just like, well, there's a light going across. Anyway, I feel like we'd be priced at 15 or more years for the average age of a vehicle on the road if Cash for Clunkers didn't happen. I mean, I don't know everything about Cash for Clunkers. I know it was controversial at the time. I don't remember a whole lot because I wasn't really covering the car sector at that point. But yeah, I mean, it seemed like something that's had questionable stuff. I know a lot of people were trying to take advantage of it and stuff back in the day, but hopefully it didn't go to too many of the good things. And Austin says, Cash for Clunkers was sad, seeing them pour sand into perfectly good engines to kill them. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like, the intentions might have been good of like getting actual clunkers off the road, but it ended up, people just trying to, take advantage and get rid of perfectly good stuff, which I do. That always does make me sad whenever there's a vehicle that, doesn't get to live out the life that it should have. It's always sad because I have a strange sentimental feeling about vehicles, and that's why I don't even enjoy like demolition derbies and stuff, because I always feel bad for cars getting wrecked and destroyed and stuff like that. And let me see. Zachary says, my grandfather worked at a Ford dealer at the time and watched them brick a 3-year-old top trim Excursion. Wow, I can't believe, because cash for clunkers, how much did they give people? There's no way that would have made financial sense for whoever owned that Excursion, right? Again, I would need to know the details on cash for clunkers again to like have a good take on this, but that seems like insane, because surely it was worth more than whatever the government paid for the cash for clunkers thing for that vehicle. But anyway, that's wild. That is crazy. Yeah, I forgot all about them pouring sand into the engines and stuff. They couldn't even flip any of those parts. Hyper Shadow says, I'm late, but I'm here. I just saw the new electric GTI, or is it called GTE? Regardless, it looks amazing, but I'm sad that they're not making it either hybrid or giving us ICE or E options. Did it just come out? I haven't checked anything online here in the past few hours, but if that's super fresh, I'll have to check that out. I know there was like the what was it called, the ID GTI or something, and there was that whole little thing that came out, or was it was something like that, as I think last year. It was pretty cool. But I mean, we've heard, I don't know if there's again an update just in the past day or so here, but Volkswagen was talking about delaying a lot of their EV stuff, not because of like sales, but because of the SSP platform that the next gen Golf electric is supposed to be on. They're having a bunch of software issues. They still can't find a good coder in Germany to do the coding for these Volkswagens, unfortunately. So I'm sure there's a bunch of other complicated stuff. I know nothing about that world, but so I think there's some, I don't think it's confirmed yet, but there's consensus here that most likely this current generation of GTI and Golf R that we have, because there is again no other gas powered one, I don't think, coming, unless again they do a last minute kind of switch up. But I think we're going to see probably either them just really extend this out, but if sales kind of drop off, we may see another like refresh, like a Mark 8.85 or 7.5 kind of refresh or something for those, because I believe they said now the gas powered one should probably go till 2028 or 2029. I think I saw. Again, don't take my word to the bank on any of this stuff, but I believe that's what I remember reporting on in the weekly update. So there's I think there's going to be more time for that, so I wouldn't worry too much, again, unless something just popped up that I missed in the past day or so. But I don't think we have to worry about that quite just yet. We'll see how things go and see how the next 5 years goes as far as whether that stuff becomes reality or what ends up happening. Hyper Shadow said the GTI is one of my dream cars. They are a lot of fun. They're great little cars for sure. Luke says, I'm hoping there will be some cash on the hood even for the 25 Frontier, even though it's a refresh. Yeah, I'd say the first few dealers will try and be greedy with, but hopefully there will be some stuff that gives you a little bit of an incentive. And I think especially Nissan dealers, like, they don't want people to walk. So if they have enough inventory, they don't have someone else breathing down your neck to buy it. If you don't, then I'm sure you can hopefully get a good deal on it. Fingers crossed. I'm pulling for you, Luke. Hopefully it works out for you. And Dylan's weighing in on the thing about CPOs. He says, a few of my former techs hated CPO warranty work in general because the warranty work was a set amount of hours per job, and OEM would usually short the hours it actually take. Okay. Because I know, talking from the few techs that I've talked to, I think some stuff like they weren't opposed to, because like there were some things where, like, if it was like a job that quoted a certain amount of hours, there was some things that maybe they were able to do shorter, and they made a little bit of extra money there. But again, I'm sure, yeah, it sounds right that the OEM would try and shortchange and make those things worse for the techs. So corporate greed, you gotta keep the shareholders happy, I suppose. That's unfortunate though, and that's why, like, one of my friends who was a tech, he got out of the tech thing, because he's like, it burns you out, especially when they try and pull that crap. Hyper Shadow says, I just realized I have some Subaru colored walls in my house. Whoops, I meant beige. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like beige things as well, but yeah, whenever it's it's your whole lineup for the most part. That's where it gets a little tiresome. You can't have all beige pants. You gotta have some color there. And Hyperstat says I'm going to use that so often now. I agree, me too. So thanks, Ben, for giving us all a new way to describe Subarus here. And Cara says, this weekend I'm planning on going to my local car show and shine here in Sutherland, Oregon. What is the most memorable car show you've been to so far? Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. I probably have a really good answer if I sat down and thought about it, but off the top of my head, like there's no one car show that like was super crazy. I mean, I think one of the wildest ones, this is probably at this point, maybe 12 years ago, maybe even more. There's a Cars and Coffee in Columbus, Ohio, that they do like a special like 1 year thing, once a year thing, where there's like a McLaren F1 GTR there and some really like rare stuff like an Auburn Boattail Speedster and a bunch of really cool stuff. So that one kind of stands out to me. The Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix is always one that's pretty notable and pretty fun. In the past, whenever I've gone, just because they have like sections and there is just so much turnout that you get some really off the wall stuff that you wouldn't see at a typical Cars and Coffee. So those are always a standout one. And I saw someone earlier that wasn't a member was asking if I was at Vintage Grand Prix this year. Unfortunately, I did not make it this year. Just didn't work out. But I'm hoping to go maybe next year. But yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the more memorable, things. Usually that's a yearly thing, but yeah, I can't think of a specific one outside of those that really like took the cake as far as just being absolutely wild. I'm sure there's got to be a couple, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. It's a good question there, Cars. Sorry, I couldn't give you a better answer, but Good Six says Subaru is beige and Honda is illogical considering they don't have all-wheel drive in some models and no base models, as well as not offering hybrids in other models. Yeah. So we got to come up with a good word for Honda's lineup as well, which again is very good in many ways, just like Subaru's. But yeah, Honda they leave so much money on the table. I don't know why they do it to themselves. And Shane says, hey, Matt, what are your thoughts on the Volvo S60 PHEV? I'm looking to upgrade from my 17 Bolt to either an Ioniq 5.6 or go with the Volvo. Excuse me. So I love the S60 PHEV. It's really good. I did the black edition, of the updated version of the S60 PHEV last fall. So definitely check out that video if you'd like to see, all of my thoughts on the newest PHEV S60. I think it's actually a really underappreciated car too. It's fast. I mean, I can't remember what it's like, 460 horsepower, 450. I mean, it's a lot of power. And now the electric motors finally have enough juice to do like, highway driving in full EV mode, do actual respectable accelerations in EV mode. They refresh. I don't know when I think they introduced this in 23 maybe. So any of the older ones, I mean, they're still fine, but they're pretty weak. And I always was critical of the original Volvo plug-in hybrid systems because it was like, if the wind was blowing against you, it was like, oh, we got to turn on the gas engine. They're so weak with the electric motors. And with these, refreshes they did in the past year or two here for those Volvos, it's now an actual legit electric motor that can actually, exhaust the EV range with regular driving before it has to use that gas engine. So I love the S60 PHEV, but I think what I saw was they're cheap too for price wise. I think the one I had was like under 50 grand, which I mean, as we know is kind of crazy, especially for a plug-in hybrid and a luxury brand at that. The downsides, again, I won't rehash my entire review, but the tech is just behind. It's not great in those. Even the CarPlay integration isn't fantastic. It's wired and the icons are really small and stuff. So there's a few drawbacks, but honestly, it's I'd say pretty high on my list if I was looking for, a fuel efficient, vehicle from a luxury brand that was that size. I really loved it a lot. As far as Ioniq 5.6, I mean, 5 obviously is kind of a different beast being larger and stuff. The 6 though, I love the Ioniq 6 as well. If the styling isn't a hold up for you and you'd like to stick with another EV, I mean, obviously they charge so fast. I mean, that would be a real game changer if you ever do any fast charging in your Bolt compared to the Ioniq. I mean, it'll blow your mind how fast those things charge, especially compared to a Bolt, as I'm sure you're well aware. But, so 6 is great. The thing I love about the 6 is it's kind of the same thing I love about the Model 3, honestly, is it's small, but it's got a ton of space still. And so it's a great car to, whip around, do errands in. It's easy to park, easy to, live with, but yet you still have so much space. I mean, the backseat in the Ioniq 6, I can almost like put my feet out all the way. Like it's like crazy it's a small footprint, so that's what I love is just the space efficiency is fantastic. And, S60, not a lot of space in that, honestly, even compared to your Bolt, you're not going to really gain much either. I think you actually lose a little bit probably as far as cargo goes, obviously not having the hatch. And then also back seat, might be a little more than the Bolt, but, probably not by much. It's not the biggest in that segment by any means. So those are the other drawbacks. But yeah, if you want to stick with an EV, I'd probably vote for the Ioniq 6. But S60 PHEV, if you would like the flexibility of the gas, is a fantastic choice as well. So hopefully it helps you a little bit there. And great question, Shane. And Brian, thank you so much for another super chat as well. They're saying, I liked your brutally honest review of the Forester. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, I'm glad that people are responding well to that. I mean, I still, even that, video had, some hate comments from people that are Subaru fans that get upset, and that's understandable. I'm totally expecting that. But, I really hope that people, kind of notice that, because I feel like brutally honest is not super common in this industry. There's a lot of very honest people. I'm friends with, I'd say a majority of the people, or I'm, friendly with a majority of the people out there reviewing cars, especially new cars, and, doing that kind of stuff. And, I'd say a large, majority of them are totally honest and will give you their honest opinion most of the time in the videos. But, some people do sugarcoat, or they just won't say, the negative things. They just won't even review the car. If they don't like it, they'll send it back and they'll never utter a word about it. There is some of that happens. So I really hope that I can kind of differentiate myself here going forward for people who are tired of all the fluff and all the, nonstop positive reviews. Like, if something's not good, again, it's not just me having a bad day and wanting to, crap on a car. It's like, look at the competition and then look at this and then tell me that this is better, and just laying it out there and being like, all right, well, here's the information, do with it as you please. But I'm glad you appreciate the honesty. To me, it's very important. And it's everything, honesty is everything. So it's something I really prize myself on. And let me see. B Mitchell says, I had a chance to talk to a pal last weekend who used to be the chief of design for Navistar International, and he recently bought a Honda Ioniq 5 and absolutely loves it, and for more than design. That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad they're enjoying it. And yeah, I think that's also another thing, getting back to the charger thing. A lot of these people that don't like the charger and stuff like that, most of them probably haven't tried a fast electric vehicle. Maybe they've ridden, the backseat of an Uber or a, Tesla or something, but like, it's one of those things, at least before it got so politicized, in the early days with Tesla and stuff, like it was just like, take it for a test drive, go for a ride in it. And, when you do, like it really changed people's minds. Like, holy crap, like I don't have to wait for a car to downshift. I don't have to like have a slow response. I don't have to wait for the engine to rev to the moon before I actually get where I need to go, and I can pass people flawlessly and immediately, and whatever. There's a lot of perks there in addition to all the maintenance perks and all that stuff. But just from, again, not even talking about the money stuff, just from a drive standpoint, it's a really good experience. That's why Beth loves the Mach-E. It's not an environmental thing. It wasn't even really a money thing. It was just like she was tired of waiting for her Mercedes to give her a downshift, and she never has to wait for that in the Mach-E. It's instant power, and she loves that instant response. And whenever a car does what you want it to do, isn't that what we're all kind of going for? And that's what you want. You don't want a car that's refusing your commands. And I mean, even I right now have a Mercedes GLC 43 press vehicle this week. I don't know what it is, 80 some $1,000. I haven't done the review yet, so I haven't done all of my research on it just yet. But it's this expensive thing with all this AMG performance, but it's got this little turbo 4 in it that is trying to hypermile all the time because of the way they tune the transmission. And I'm like sitting there, going half throttle. I'm not even exaggerating, half throttle before it gives me a downshift, just one gear, just to try and climb a hill. Like, I'm not even asking for, razor sharp F1 responses. I'm just like, I just want to get up this hill in a lower gear. And like, so those are the types of things, like, if when you realize, like, oh wait, these are things that maybe you don't actively get annoyed by because maybe you're not in this, reviewer mindset like I am. And these are things you learn to live with. But like, it's just like whenever your eyes are open to like, oh wait, I don't have to live with this. I don't have to have my car annoy me. Again, there's some transmissions are better than others, and obviously this isn't a universal complaint for all cars, but it's just there's a lot of perks. So I'm glad that they liked it, and I encourage anyone who's on the fence or it doesn't get why people like EVs. Take it for a drive. You can still hate them, and that's totally fine. That's, again, choice. I think choice is great. Give people choices, but I think that there's the people that like EVs aren't crazy, despite what you might see online. And Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat. He says a collection of car emblems on the top shelf above your DVDs would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll go to my local pull apart yard and maybe I can snag a few. That'd be a fun idea. Thanks for the suggestion, Jordan. And yeah, there's a lot of emblems I wouldn't mind doing. And I also have I've got more like knickknacks and stuff that I've collected over the years from press trips and stuff that I should probably put in a more prominent spot that are kind of cool that just, you just collect, and then just for me, I just throw them in a drawer and, forget about most of them. But there's some cool little things, you get from time to time too. And let me see. So Good Stick says the Jelly Bean reference from Dodge is probably a dig at the Tesla Model 3 and Y and the Mercedes EQS and EQE. Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going after, especially the Mercedes, because the Mercedes have been really attacked because being the Jelly Beans there. So I think that's what the the main dig is at. And B. Mitchell says, sorry about the skipping text, working remote with poor reception at parents' place tonight since she's got to put on the first stage. She's got put on the first stage of hospice today. I'm so sorry to hear that, B. Mitchell. Yeah, it's we have a family friend that just passed away after another hospice thing as well. I personally didn't know them, so no sympathy needed from me. But I just, I've recently been around people that have had to deal with that whole thing, and it's definitely tough. So sorry to hear that. Hope things work out in the best way possible. Yeah, well, all good, B. Mitchell, and no need to chime in if you got other things clearly that are a lot more important. But thanks so much for joining in. Hopefully the live stream is a pleasant little distraction, uplifter, or whatever. Yeah, wishing you all the best, and your mother as well. And Good Stick says, if you were to buy a first car for your daughter, what would it be? Well, I guess if we were to assume that she was 16 today, which is definitely not the case. So I haven't thought about it a whole lot with current vehicles, because that's just something I'm not gonna have to worry about for another 13 years or so. But if I were to buy something today, that's tough. I mean, I think I certainly would want her to have some influence in what she wants. I mean, I would probably not love her getting something that's not super safe. So that would probably be the only thing, is safety would be top for me. But, as long as it's safe, I'd be up for whatever, she wanted. But I mean, if I were picking and, she had no preference, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, like these days, what I would probably do, especially if she didn't need to drive long distances, I'd probably pick up one of those Ioniq 6s. There's these dirt cheap leases still for that and the 5. You can lease one of those. I mean, they've increased the amount of down payment you need to put on it, but I mean, it's like I don't know, $200 a month lease or something. That's probably what I'll end up doing if she's okay with it, is just lease her a new car, whenever the time comes. But I mean, like stuff like Ioniq 6, top-notch safety tech. You have the weight of the battery to kind of, help you in a physics equation. And it's small, so it's still easy to manage, easy to park, plenty of space for, friends and all that. plenty of power to get out of the way of whatever you need to get out of. I honestly, I'd say like an Ioniq 6, probably again at those prices. Again, if we had other things that were priced similarly, I'd probably consider other things. But that's probably would be my play right now, would be a dirt cheap EV lease, or even pick up a used EV again because they're so cheap. And I mean, insurance might be kind of high for those, especially with a 16-year-old or age like that. Kind of driving up the rates a little bit, but that would probably be my play. I mean, I'd also be open to like a Volvo or even like if she wanted like a CPO, BMW or Mercedes or something like that, which has a very good reliability record. If she wants a 330i or something in 13 years, that's newer, modern, version of whatever that ends up being. Something like that. Would be something. For me, it's all about safety, I think, with my daughter and with anyone, any family member in general, it's just about having them in something safe. So that's probably the way I would go. I mean, like, another thing I'd probably consider if she wanted like an SUV, like my sister has a CX-5, Mazda CX-5. They also still are doing fantastic with the safety ratings, even with these newer updated ones. With that older CX-5, it's still holding up pretty well. They're super reliable, tons of space, great, interior and all that. So I'd say, a Mazda would be an easy choice as well if we're going for lower end stuff. I think, the Mazdas in the current lineup would be a great choice for a first car too, because again, top-notch safety, good reliability, and still a nice car. So those are probably the top ones, I'd say. Hopefully that helps you a little bit with your question there, good stick. And Hyper Shadow says, your Subaru Forester review had me laughing all the way through. Acceleration, all right. Handling, all right. Colors / bronze, all right. Everything is all right. Subaru would be like, me no like review. Yeah. And I do have to say, though, either Subaru doesn't watch my videos or even read the titles, or they are cool with the criticism, which I also have to emphasize is very respectable. And again, another thing about Subaru, that even if they don't do the best stuff, in my opinion, they are open to criticism and they're open to critique. That's not guaranteed. I actually just this past week, 2 different companies were brought to my attention that are not cool with negative reviews. And one was kind of a surprise for me, honestly. They're not my stories to tell, so I'm not going to spill the beans there and spill the tea on them. But there's companies that aren't cool with that, and they will cut you off if you do negative videos. And I don't care. I mean, I'm going to always say whatever. If I have to burn a bridge to say a car is crap, because it is, I'm going to do it. Like, this is one of the luxuries I have of having friends that own, car dealerships and having no shortage of wonderful, people who have offered me their own cars to drive. If I burn every bridge with every OEM, I don't want to. Again, I'm very friendly with many of them. There's wonderful people working at them. But if I ever had anyone object to a negative review, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can go ahead and blacklist me. I don't care, because I'm going to be honest, that is more important than getting access to press cars from a certain brand. And yeah, the one that I found out about this week, again, I don't want to be like a tease here, but like it really like upset me for the person that was dealing with it, because it sucks. And it's like, if your product is good, then it should be able to stand up to criticism. And if it's not good, then you need to work harder and you need to improve things. It's just that simple. It should not be taken out on the reviewer. So yeah, and fortunately the one brand is a brand I don't work with. So I don't have to worry about, burning that bridge. But now I'm also not going to work towards making a connection at that brand either, because it's, something that I would say negative stuff, even if I really like some of the vehicles, I'm going to say negative stuff, from time to time. And if they're not cool with that, then I'm not even going to bother, covering their stuff and trying to make that connection. But, so the fact that like Subaru keeps sending me stuff, the fact that Nissan, even with my, dogging on the Z Nismo last year and stuff, they still send me stuff. They still invite me to stuff. Again, either they're oblivious or they are cool with the criticism. And that is really respectable. So for all of Subaru's flaws, they can take some criticism. And for that, I'm happy to, still give them all my respect, even if I don't agree with the decisions they make. I think that says a lot about the company and the people behind the company, the people running it, the people that are working for them. And, people that, I still would feel good supporting a Subaru purchase if it works for you, because the people that I know there, and the fact that the company has the morals to allow that kind of stuff, I think is very important and very cool. But I see we are over 2 hours, so I'll do the last few questions here, and then we will head on out. But Mike says, this is a big question, but do you think the car service / repair industry has failed the low / middle income earner? I get the dealer, service advisor, and dealer all have to make money, but still, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would need to know more about the industry. Admittedly, that's not an area that I'm super well versed in, so I'm probably not the best person to weigh in on this. As far as, I mean, I think this is why obviously it's not feasible for everyone, but I feel like, if you can get, something with warranty coverage to kind of lessen the blows there so that you're not getting taken to the cleaners by a dealer, I think that's really important. And, again, not everyone can afford a vehicle that's either new or certified pre-owned, or can, afford an extra warranty on top of the car, from another, provider or whatever. But it's one of those things that, I feel like if you can, I would just, even if you can get, Nissan Versa or something that's, dirt cheap, and you have a warranty. The warranty is really important just from a financial standpoint to protect yourself, and, but obviously this is also why I tell people, it might be tempting to go for the 10-year-old BMW or Mercedes versus the 20-year-old Honda that's the same price or whatever. But it's like, you got to go for the thing that's more reliable. And I'd rather go older and get something solid than get something newer that's going to, screw you over with the, repair industry, and that whole thing being, very expensive. But I think that's only going to get worse, because as they have less and less cars to service, as we transition to EVs, either slower or faster, but it's still heading in that direction. They're going to lose money. This is why dealers don't want to sell EVs, because they're hurting their own business, because they really make most of their money off of servicing. They don't make very much off of the new car sales operations. That's just a machine, a cog in the wheel to get people into, vehicles and put miles on them so they can then service them. That's kind of the whole point, honestly, for dealers. And so if they're losing that component and all they can do is, the odd warranty claim and swapping tires and brakes, like it's, their industry is going to collapse. So I think, they're going to try and price gouge the gas stuff as much as possible, which honestly might help the EV transition, because if, they're clinging on to all this stuff, and you have part suppliers that are not building parts for these things as much anymore because, those types of parts aren't needed as much as they used to be or whatever. I think that these are all going to be things that snowball in various directions, as we go forward. But I think that, I don't think you're going to see servicing get any cheaper, unless there's some kind of regulation or something that comes in. But I mean, dealers have that stuff all locked up. There's no way you can touch them. So I think it's just one of those things the market's going to have to take care of it, for us, and do its thing. And they will have to, either sink or swim, I guess. I don't know. But Good Stick says, if you reviewed a Ferrari and criticize it, you'd probably get sued. Yeah, I don't know. I've never had the opportunity. Again, if you saw my little Instagram reel there, I got to take a 296 GTB around Fiorano. Thankfully, I mean, it wasn't a review; it was just a sponsored post. But even if I were giving it a review, I had nothing negative to say about that car. That thing is amazing, 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 amazing. So I'd probably be safe with Ferrari, even if they did have that policy. I mean, I wouldn't love them for it. But that's the kind of like a Tesla kind of situation, definitely very different. But even if as a reviewer, I'm maybe mad if Ferrari is so restrictive about their reviews, it's one of those things where they still make fantastic products. It's kind of like separating the art from the artist, kind of thing. It's kind of how I maybe look at Ferrari, because they do have some very restrictive stuff. And I experienced a little bit of the restrictions, some of the things that I did and things that I, can't talk about, that I was, able to see and do whenever I was there. But it's Ferraris, they're very impressive, but I don't understand the restrictive nature about reviews or anything. Again, if your stuff is solid, this goes for anything in life. If your stuff is solid, it should stand up to scrutiny. It's just stand up to questioning. And if it doesn't stand up to questioning, then that's on you, not on the person doing the questioning. At least in my opinion. But anyway, And Goth Rocker says, joining late here, stressful couple of weeks. Mother had stroke and has been in hospital now in rehab, but not easy. Very stressful. I agree. Super Forcer should have a little more effort put in. Well, Goth Rocker, I'm so sorry to hear that. And just B. Mitchell also has been dealing with some rough stuff as well. So I hope everyone has better health here going forward. And yeah, all the best for your mother there, Goth Rocker, and hope things improve for you and her as well. My dad just had an injury that was kind of scary not too long ago as well, and he's also recovering, so I can kind of relate. It wasn't a stroke or anything, definitely nothing that severe, but still, just a scare, and just having to worry about them a little more than usual was definitely no fun. So hope things get better for you, Goth Rocker, as well. And thanks for stopping by. And let me see, Giovanni, sorry I missed your super chat. Sorry I make you wait there for that. He says, hey Matt, your review of the 2022 WRX inspired me to get a 24 WRX, and I love the car. Keep up the awesome work, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So glad you love it. And yeah, it's still awesome. That's another thing, if we're gonna give Subaru some redeeming points here tonight, the fact that you can get that car for 30 grand, basically, with dealers. That's one of the things. Subaru dealers are surprisingly cool, it seems, with giving out discounts on stuff. You can get a WRX with a discount, and they offer you 272 horsepower, whatever, for $30,000 with a manual and a lot of space and a pretty nice interior, honestly, even for a base one. That's something no other company really can offer these days, honestly, and that's, again, to be respected. And so yeah, I think the WRX is a great niche carved out for itself these days, even though I don't love everything about it, but it's a great car still in a lot of ways. And I'm glad that you're happy with your 24 there, and hope it treats you well. And thanks again for the super chat. Ben says, that's great. You've got dealer connections. Don't have to rely on the press fleets. I'll watch videos on an old Pontiac Solstice over a new Chevy Trax any day. I appreciate that, Ben. Yeah, and I was hoping to do more of the used stuff this year, but I just really got slammed with tons of press vehicles. And especially now that I don't have my own personal vehicle, I'm a little more inclined to accept stuff because I just don't want to be without a car some weeks. But I'm that hasn't even been an issue. I've been doubled up. I'm usually not doubled up super often, but now it's I've been doubled up since I don't know, April or something. It's I almost every single week I have 2 cars, which is a lot to keep up with, and that's why my backlog is so big. But I'm hoping to work in more of the used stuff here later this year, hopefully. And if anything interesting pops up with the dealers that I work with, I'm always happy to try and work that in if I can. But anyway, Garth Harker says she's stable but has trouble speaking and walking. Thanks. Well, I hope, yeah, she improves quickly and well and makes a full recovery. And yeah, best of luck for her, and all the positive vibes to you as well, Goth Rocker. So I see everyone else saying good night here. And Zachary says, good night, y'all. Thanks for your patience. Zachary, thank you for your patience and for sticking around. I'm not sure, Zachary, if you always watch all the way through here, but thanks so much, Zachary, for moderating. Everyone, please show Zachary some love here for everything he's done here tonight to filter out all the trolls, or the one troll who was hell-bent on making a zillion comments. So thank you so much, Zachary. And yeah, I'm gonna have to find some way to thank you in addition to the little shout out here. But yeah, thank you so much, Zachary, for helping us out here tonight. Austin says, have a good week, everyone, except fake Richard Simmons. I hope fake Richard Simmons finds some meaning in life and finds a more productive use of his 2 hours here next week. But anyway, I see all the well wishes. Thanks everyone for being awesome. I really appreciate this awesome community we have, and always love doing these live streams. It's great hanging out with all of you, and hope you enjoyed this one as well. And I see Cara saying, wishing all the best to everyone experiencing challenging circumstances with family members. Hope everyone has a good night. I agree. And B. Mitchell here says, Matt, what I see on the bottom end is that the more low-income folks just give up on any car that costs more to fix than replace, move on to another crap bucket. Yeah, that's unfortunate and definitely sad. All right, well, yeah, thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you have a great week here. More good stuff here coming this week, of course, and yeah, just hope you guys all stay healthy and happy and strong as best as we possibly can. And hope you guys just have a great week. But thank you all so much for joining in here. Take care. find my button here. There we go. Take care.